Under a merciless sun, a wealthy man finds himself tied up, injured, and completely helpless in the middle of nowhere. Among cans and bits of trash, a girl invisible to society discovers that for the first time someone needs her. Challenging her own fears, she cuts the ropes and extends her hand to the stranger, who never imagined depending on someone like her. If you love great stories, please subscribe to our channel and comment where you're from, so we'll keep going. The merciless Arizona sun beat down on Ethan Blackwood's battered form. His once pristine business suit was torn and stained with sweat and blood, his wrists raw from the ropes binding him to a weathered wooden post in this forsaken stretch of desert outside Phoenix. His parched throat barely allowed him to call for help anymore, each attempt weaker than the last. The corporate executive who once commanded boardrooms with authority was now reduced to a desperate man fighting for survival. 3 days earlier, everything had been normal. As CEO of Blackwood Innovations, a rising tech company specializing in sustainable energy solutions, Ethan had been preparing for the biggest merger in the company's history. Then came the anonymous threats demanding he withdraw from the deal, threats he had ignored. Now he understood the consequences of his decision, though the faces of his captors remained a blur in his memory. Miles away from the nearest highway, abandoned in this desolate landscape with no water for over 24 hours, Ethan was losing hope. The distant mountains wavered in the heat as consciousness threatened to slip away from him. A small movement caught his attention, something shifting between the sparse desert shrubs. At first, he thought it was a hallucination brought on by dehydration. But then he saw her, a small, thin girl with tangled brown hair watching him cautiously from behind a cluster of brittle-bush. Her clothes were mismatched and worn, her skin tanned by constant exposure to the sun. She couldn't have been more than 11 years old. "Help," Ethan croaked, his voice barely audible. "Please, help me." The girl remained still, observing him, with wary eyes that seemed too old for her young face. She clutched a small bag close to her chest, probably containing whatever treasures she had scavenged that day. It was clear she lived on the margins, one of the invisible children that society preferred to ignore. "Water," he pleaded, the words scraping against his dry throat. Something in his desperation must have reached her, because she took a tentative step forward, then another. Her movements were those of someone accustomed to approaching dangerous situations with caution, assessing, calculating, ready to flee at the first sign of threat. When she was about 10 feet away, she stopped. "Who tied you up?" Her voice was surprisingly steady, with a slight rasp that suggested she didn't use it often. "I don't know," Ethan replied truthfully. "I can't remember their faces. Please, I need water." The girl studied him for a long moment. "Why should I help you? You're one of them." "One of who?" "The rich people, the ones who drive past and look away." Despite his dire situation, Ethan felt the sting of her words. She wasn't wrong. How many times had he averted his eyes from the homeless? People on his way to work. "I'm just a person who needs help," he said simply. The girl reached into her bag and pulled out a half-empty plastic bottle. The water inside looked cloudy, but to Ethan it might as well have been liquid gold. She approached cautiously, staying just out of his reach as she uncapped the bottle. "I'm Lily," she said, holding the bottle to his lips. Ethan drank greedily, some of the water spilling down his chin. It tasted slightly stale, but was the most wonderful thing he had ever experienced. "Thank you, Lily, I'm Ethan." After he had drunk, Lily stepped back, studying the ropes around his wrists. Without a word, she produced a small, rusty knife from her pocket. "Where did you get that?" Ethan asked, eyeing the blade. "Found it. I find lots of things." She began sawing at the ropes. People throw away stuff that's still good. As she worked, Ethan learned that Lily had been living on her own for nearly 2 years. Her mother had disappeared one day, just didn't come back, as Lily put it with a forced nonchalance that broke Ethan's heart. She had avoided the system ever since, sleeping in abandoned buildings and collecting recyclables to earn enough money for food. When the ropes finally gave way, Ethan collapsed forward. His legs, weak from dehydration and lack of circulation, refused to support his weight, Lily jumped back, knife raised defensively. "I'm okay," he assured her, massaging his wrists. "Just need a minute." "You don't look okay," Lily observed bluntly. "You look like you're going to fall over dead." "I need to get to a phone, call for help." Lily shook her head. "There's nothing around here for miles, and you can't walk like that. You'll pass out and the sun will get you." She looked around, nervously. Those people might come back too. "Then what do we do?" After a moment's consideration, Lily said, "I can take you to my place. It's not far." Leaning heavily on the young girl's surprisingly strong shoulder, Ethan staggered across the barren landscape. Each step was agony, but the alternative was certain disaster. After what seemed like hours but was probably only 30 minutes, a structure came into view, an old-school bus. Its yellow paint faded to a pale ghost of its former color, partially hidden among large boulders and desert vegetation. "Home, sweet home," Lily said, with a hint of pride mixed with defiance. The inside of the bus was a stark testament to Lily's resourcefulness. She had transformed the abandoned vehicle into a makeshift shelter, with a sleeping area made from collected blankets and cushions at the back. Various containers held water she had collected, and small treasures were arranged on the dashboard. Colorful rocks, a toy figurine missing an arm, a snow globe with no water. Everything was meticulously organized despite the obvious scarcity. Ethan collapsed onto a seat that still had its cushion. The interior was stifling hot, but at least it provided shade. Lily handed him more water from her collection of bottles. "You need to drink slowly," she instructed. "Too fast and you'll get sick." Ethan nodded, taking measured sips. "How do you know that?" "You learn things when you have to take care of yourself." As the evening approached, bringing marginal relief from the heat, Lily shared her meager food supplies, a stale granola bar and half a sandwich she had salvaged from a diner's trash. Ethan ate gratefully, knowing he needed strength, but the inequality of their situation wasn't lost on him. Here was a child with nothing, sharing the little she had with a stranger who, in his normal life, would spend more on a single business lunch than she might see in a month. "How long have you lived here?" he asked. "Found this place about 6 months ago," Lily replied, sitting cross-legged on the floor. "It's good in winter, keeps the wind out, summer's harder." As night fell, the temperature dropped dramatically, and Ethan began to shiver. His body, already weakened, was struggling to regulate its temperature. Lily noticed and wordlessly handed him an old blanket with faded cartoon characters. "You're sick," she said matter-of-factly. "You need a doctor." In the morning, Ethan promised, "We'll find a way to get help." But as he drifted into an uneasy sleep, Ethan knew his condition was deteriorating. The dehydration, exposure, and injuries had taken their toll. Without proper medical attention, he might not last another day. In the middle of the night, he awoke to the sound of an engine. Lily was already up, peering cautiously through a crack in the newspaper she had taped over the windows. "Someone's out there," she whispered. "They have flashlights." Ethan's heart raced. Had his captors returned to finish what they'd started, or was it help? Either way, he knew one thing with absolute certainty. This brave, resourceful child had risked everything to help him, a stranger. Whatever happened next, he wouldn't let any harm come to her. Lily moved with the silent efficiency of someone accustomed to danger. She quickly gathered her most important possessions into her worn backpack while motioning for Ethan to stay down. "There's a way out through the emergency exit at the back," she whispered. "We need to be really quiet." Ethan tried to stand, but a wave of dizziness sent him stumbling against the metal seat frame, creating a dull thud that seemed deafeningly loud in the silent desert night. Lily froze, her eyes wide with fear. The flashlight beams outside swung toward the bus. "Hey, is someone in there?" a gruff voice called out. Lily grabbed Ethan's arm, her small fingers digging into his skin. "Don't make a sound," she hissed. But Ethan's condition was deteriorating rapidly. His forehead burned with fever, and the world seemed to tilt and spin around him. "I don't think I can run," he admitted, his voice barely audible. The footsteps outside grew closer. Lily looked frantically around the bus, then pushed Ethan down between two seats. "Stay there," she ordered, throwing the blanket over him. "Don't move." Before he could protest, she had darted to the back of the bus and slipped out through the emergency exit. Ethan wanted to call her back, to protect her somehow, but his parched throat wouldn't cooperate. All he could do was lie there, hidden beneath the threadbare blanket, listening to the approaching footsteps. The bus door creaked open. Flashlight beams swept across the interior, dancing over Ethan's hiding place. He held his breath. "Probably just an animal," another voice said. "Let's keep moving. We've got a lot of ground to cover." "Wait," the first voice replied. "Look, at this setup. Someone's living here." Ethan's heart pounded painfully in his chest. He wasn't sure if these were his captors returning or just random strangers, but he couldn't risk being found. Not when... Lily might come back, not when she had trusted him. The footsteps moved further into the bus. A boot stopped inches from Ethan's face. He could see the dusty leather through a small gap in the blanket. "Hello," the voice called out. "We're not here to hurt anyone. We're looking for a missing person." Missing person? Could they be searching for him? Ethan's mind raced. His company would have reported his disappearance by now. These could be rescuers, not threats. Before he could decide whether to reveal himself, a small rock hit the side of the bus with a sharp ping, then another. The footsteps quickly retreated. "Someone's outside." The men rushed out of the bus. Ethan heard them calling out, their voices growing more distant. After what seemed like an eternity, silence returned. "They're gone." Lily's voice suddenly came from beside him, making him start. She had somehow slipped back into the bus undetected. "I led them away from here." "How did you—" "I'm good at hiding," she said simply, helping him sit up. "I've had lots of practice." In the pale moonlight filtering through the covered windows, Ethan could see the exhaustion on her young face, yet there was also a fierce determination that defied her years. "I think they might have been looking for me," he said. "My company, they would have reported me missing by now. Or they could be the same people who tied you up," Lily countered. "We can't trust anyone." Her wariness struck Ethan anew. What kind of life had this child lived to be so distrustful? Of everyone? What experiences had taught her that the world was a place of constant danger rather than safety? "Lily," he asked gently, "what happened to your mother?" The girl stiffened, her face closing off. "Doesn't matter, she's gone." "It matters to me." She remained silent for so long that Ethan thought she wouldn't answer. When she finally spoke, her voice was flat, emotionless. She had problems. Drugs, I think. Sometimes she'd disappear for days, then come back all sorry with presents and promises. One day she just didn't come back. "What about other family?" "Your father?" Lily shrugged. "Never knew him. There was my grandmother for a while, but she got sick." She looked away. "After she was gone, Mom started getting worse. Then the landlord kicked us out when the rent wasn't paid. And no one helped. You, school counselors, social services. Mom always said they'd separate us if they found out. After she disappeared, I just kept going. I know how the system works. Foster homes, group homes, they're all just places where kids get forgotten. At least out here, I'm free." The simplicity of her statement concealed its heartbreaking. A reality. This child had been abandoned by everyone who should have protected her, her family, her community, the very systems designed to safeguard vulnerable children. "You're very brave, Lily," Ethan said, his voice thick with emotion. He looked uncomfortable with the praise. "I'm just doing what I have to do." "Well, what you had to do saved my life today. I won't forget that." As the night deepened, Ethan's condition worsened. His fever spiked, and he drifted in and out of consciousness. During his lucid moments, he became increasingly aware that without medical attention, his situation was dire. Lily seemed to realize this too. She used their limited water supply to wet a cloth and place it on his forehead, just as she might have seen done in movies or television shows. "We need to get you to a doctor," she said, her voice tinged with unusual uncertainty. "There's a cell phone in my pocket," Ethan mumbled. "They took my wallet and watch, but they missed the phone." He reached weakly into his torn jacket and produced a shattered smartphone. The screen was cracked beyond use, and when Lily tried to turn it on, nothing happened. "It's dead," she said, disappointment evident in her voice. "I have another idea," Ethan said after a moment's thought. "Do you ever go into town?" Lily nodded cautiously. "Sometimes, to sell cans and bottles or find food." "Is there a place with a public phone, or somewhere you could borrow one?" She considered this. "There's a gas station about 3 miles. From here, they have a phone outside, but—" She hesitated. "There are usually police around there. They chase kids like me away." Ethan understood her fear. To Lily, police represented the threat of being forced into the system she so desperately avoided. "Lily, I need you to trust me," he said, summoning his strength to sit up straighter. "I have a friend, Sarah Thompson. She's a detective with the Phoenix Police Department. If we can reach her, she'll help us. Both of us." "Police don't help kids like me," Lily said flatly. "Sarah is different. I've known her since college. She's the most honest person I know." He looked directly into Lily's eyes. "I promise you, she won't let anyone hurt you or send you somewhere you don't want to go." Lily didn't look convinced, but she seemed to understand the gravity of Ethan's condition. "You need a doctor," she repeated. "If you don't get help soon—" She didn't finish the sentence, but she didn't need to. They both knew what was at stake. "There's a hill about a mile from here," she said finally. "Sometimes I can get cell signal there. I found an old phone in the trash a while back. It doesn't have service, but emergency calls might work." It was their best option. As dawn broke, painting the desert in hues of pink and gold, Lily helped Ethan to his feet. The journey would be difficult in his weakened state, but they had no choice. Before leaving the bus, Lily carefully hid her most precious possessions beneath a loose floor panel. Ethan noticed that among these treasures was a tattered photograph of a younger Lily with a woman who must have been her mother, both smiling, their arms around each other, a glimpse of happier times, preserved despite everything. The trek across the desert was grueling. What would have been an easy walk for a healthy person became an ordeal for Ethan. Lily supported him as best she could, her small frame straining under his weight. They moved slowly, stopping frequently for him to rest. "Tell me about your friend," Lily said during one of these breaks, perhaps trying to keep him conscious and focused. "The police lady." Ethan smiled weakly. "Sarah. We met in college. I was studying business, she was in criminal justice. Everyone thought we'd end up together, but we were better as friends. She's tough, smart, doesn't let anyone push her around." "She sounds scary," Lily commented. "She can be to the bad guys, but she has the biggest heart of anyone I know. She volunteers at a youth center on weekends, teaching self-defense classes to kids." "And she won't make me go to foster care?" Ethan looked at the girl who had saved his life, who had survived against impossible odds on her own. He knew what she needed most wasn't empty promises, but honesty. "I can't guarantee what will happen, Lily, but I can promise you this. As long as I'm around, I'll make sure you're safe and that you have a say in what happens to you. You won't be alone anymore." For the first time since they'd met, Lily's tough exterior cracked slightly. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears that she quickly blinked away. "Let's get to that hill," she said, her voice slightly unsteady. "Before you get any worse." As Sikay, they continued their painful journey. The sun climbed higher in the sky, its heat intensifying. Ethan's vision began to blur around the edges, his steps becoming more unsteady. But ahead, he could see their destination, a rocky hill rising from the desert floor, their best hope for contacting the outside world. The climb up the hill was excruciating. Each step sent waves of pain through Ethan's dehydrated body, but Lily's unwavering determination kept him moving forward. The small girl had positioned herself under his arm, her thin frame somehow finding the strength to support a man more than twice her size. "Just a little further," she encouraged, her voice strained with effort. "There's a flat spot near the top where I sometimes get signal." Ethan focused on putting one foot in front of the other, fighting the blackness that threatened to engulf his vision. The Arizona sun beat down mercilessly, and he knew his body was reaching its limits. Dehydration, exposure, and whatever injuries his captors had inflicted were taking their toll. When they finally reached the spot Lily had described, a small plateau about 3/4 of the way up the hill, Ethan collapsed onto a boulder, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The landscape below stretched out in all directions, the distant shimmer of Phoenix barely visible on the horizon. Lily pulled out an old flip phone from her pocket. The device looked ancient, its case cracked and held together with duct tape. "I found this in a dumpster behind an electronics store," she explained, turning it on. "No service plan, but emergency calls still work sometimes." The phone powered up slowly, its screen flickering to life. Lily held it up in different directions, watching the signal bars anxiously. "There," she exclaimed as a single bar appeared. "Quick, what's your friend's number?" Ethan recited Sarah Thompson's cell phone number, which Lily carefully punched into the keypad. She put the phone on speaker and held it between them as it rang. 1 ring, 2 rings, 3. "Please answer," Ethan whispered. On the 4th ring, there was a click. Detective Thompson. The voice was crisp, professional. "Sarah, it's Ethan," he said, his voice cracking with emotion and relief. A moment of stunned silence followed. "Ethan, my God, where are you?" "Everyone's been looking for you for days." "I don't know exactly. Somewhere in the desert outside Phoenix. I was taken." He glanced at Lily, not wanting to say too much about his abduction in front of her. "I'm with a girl named Lily. She found me and helped me escape, but I'm in bad shape, Sarah. Need medical attention. Can you describe anything around you, any landmarks?" Lily leaned closer to the phone. "We're on a hill east of an old yellow school bus. About 20 miles from the city, I think. There's a big rock formation shaped like a sleeping dog nearby." "Hold on," Sarah said. They could hear her speaking to someone else, her voice muffled. When she returned, her tone was urgent but reassuring. "We're tracking the signal from this call. Keep the line open as long as possible. Help is on the way, Ethan. Just hang in there." "Sarah," Ethan said, his voice growing weaker. "Lily is alone. She's been living in that bus. Promise me you'll make sure she's okay." "I promise," Sarah replied without hesitation. "You have my word." The call continued for several more minutes as Sarah kept them talking, extracting as many details as possible to help the search team locate them. Lily described the terrain with surprising accuracy, mentioning a dried creek bed and an abandoned mining sign that could help guide rescuers. As they waited, Ethan's condition deteriorated further. He slumped against the rock, his consciousness fading in and out. Lily sat beside him, occasionally splashing precious drops of water on his face to keep him awake. "Stay with me," she urged. "They're coming. Just stay awake." Through his haze, Ethan marveled at the role reversal. This child, who had been abandoned by everyone who should have protected her, was now fighting to save him. The irony wasn't lost on him, even in his weakened state. It was nearly 2 hours later when they heard the distant whump, whump of helicopter blades. Lily jumped to her feet, waving her arms frantically as the aircraft appeared over the horizon. "Here!" she shouted, though her voice couldn't possibly carry that far. "We're here." The helicopter circled once, then began its descent to a flat area at the base of the hill. Shortly after it landed, they saw figures in uniform begin the climb toward them. Lily suddenly grew tense. "They're coming for you," she said, backing away slightly. "I should go." Ethan reached out weakly, catching her wrist. "No, Lily. Remember what I promised. You won't be alone anymore." Fear and hope battled across her young face. "What if they separate us?" "They won't," Ethan said with as much conviction as he could muster. "Sarah won't let that happen. Trust me." The rescue team reached them quickly, 2 paramedics and a police officer in desert tactical gear. The paramedics immediately began assessing Ethan, checking his vital signs, and starting an IV to combat his severe dehydration. The police officer approached Lily, who had backed against a rock, her body language defensive. "You must be Lily," he said, crouching to her level rather than towering over her. "I'm Officer Rodriguez. Detective Thompson sent me to find you and Mr. Blackwood. You did an amazing job getting him to safety. Lily didn't respond, her eyes darting between the officer and the path down the hill, clearly calculating her chances of escape. "Detective Thompson asked me to give you a message," Officer Rodriguez continued, seemingly understanding her fear. "She said to tell you that she keeps her promises, just like Ethan does." Something in those words reached Lily. Her shoulders relaxed slightly, though wariness remained in her eyes. One of the paramedics approached. "We need to transport Mr. Blackwood immediately. He's severely dehydrated and showing signs of heat stroke and infection." "What about the girl?" Officer Rodriguez asked. "She should be checked out too," the paramedic replied. "Potential malnutrition, dehydration." Lily's eyes widened in alarm. "I'm not going to a hospital. They'll call social services." Ethan, now on a stretcher but still conscious, spoke up. "Lily comes with me in the same helicopter, that's non-negotiable." The paramedics exchanged glances, then nodded. "As long as she's not in immediate danger, that should be fine. Detective Thompson already cleared it." The journey down the hill was much easier with the help of the rescue team. As they approached the helicopter, Lily hesitated again. I've never been in one of those," she admitted, a rare glimpse of her actual age showing through her usually composed exterior. Ethan managed a weak smile. "First time for everything. It'll be an adventure." Inside the helicopter, Lily sat rigid with tension as they lifted off, her eyes wide as the ground fell away beneath them. One of the paramedics continued to work on Ethan, while the other offered Lily a bottle of clean water and some crackers, which she accepted cautiously. As they flew toward Phoenix, Ethan drifted in and out of consciousness, the fluids from the IV slowly beginning to combat his severe dehydration. During one lucid moment, he noticed Lily staring out the window, her expression a complex mixture of wonder and fear. "You okay?" he asked weakly. She turned to him, her voice barely audible over the helicopter's noise. "What happens when we land?" It was the question that hung between them, the uncertain future that awaited. For Ethan, it meant medical treatment, recovery, and eventually a return to his life. For Lily, the future was far less clear. "We face it together," he replied. "That's what happens." The helicopter descended toward Phoenix Memorial Hospital, the city sprawling beneath them. For Lily, who had survived on the fringes of society for so long, it must have seemed like entering another world entirely. As they landed on the hospital's helipad, medical staff rushed forward with a gurney. In the confusion of transfer and urgent medical protocols, Lily suddenly found herself separated from Ethan as he was whisked away for immediate treatment. "Ethan!" she called out, panic rising in her voice as a hospital social worker approached her. "It's okay, honey," the woman said in a soothing tone that did nothing to calm Lily's fears. "Mr. Blackwood needs emergency care. We just need to ask you some questions and make sure you're okay too." Lily's instincts, the same ones that had kept her alive on the streets, screamed danger. This was exactly what she had feared, being processed, questioned, entered into the system she had so carefully avoided. She backed away, looking frantically for an escape route, when a commanding voice cut through the chaos. "I'll take it from here, Mrs. Jensen." Her tall woman with short dark hair and an air of unmistakable authority strode across the helipad. She flashed a badge at the social worker. "Detective Sarah Thompson, Phoenix PD. This child is a material witness in an ongoing investigation. She remains in police custody for now." The social worker frowned. "Protocol states—" "I'm aware of the protocol," Sarah interrupted firmly, "and I've already cleared this with your supervisor and the hospital administrator. The girl stays with me until further notice." Lily studied the detective warily. This was Ethan's friend, the one he trusted. But years of learning not to trust authority figures had left deep marks. Sarah turned to Lily, her expression softening. "You must be Lily. Ethan told me what you did for him. That was incredibly brave." Lily didn't respond, her body still tense and ready for flight. "I know you're scared," Sarah continued, crouching down to Lily's eye level, just as Officer Rodriguez had done earlier. "And you have every right to be. But right now Ethan needs treatment, and I'm guessing you could use some food, clean clothes, and maybe a shower. What do you say we take care of those things first, and then we can talk about what happens next?" "Want to see Ethan?" Lily insisted. Sarah nodded. "The doctors need some time with him first, but I promise you'll see him as soon as possible. Ethan made me promise to look after you, and I take my promises very seriously." Something in Sarah's direct manner seemed to reach Lily. After a moment's consideration, she gave a slight nod. "Okay, but I'm not answering questions about me, and I'm not going to any foster home or group shelter." A hint of a smile crossed Sarah's face. "Understood. One step at a time." As they walked into the hospital, Lily cast one last glance at the sky, where the helicopter was preparing to depart. In less than 24 hours, her carefully constructed life of solitude and survival had been completely upended. She had saved a man's life, flown in a helicopter, and now found herself in the one situation she had always most feared, under the scrutiny of authorities. Yet something had changed within her. For the first time in years, she wasn't completely alone. Ethan had made her a promise, and despite everything life had taught her about the unreliability of adults, she found herself wanting to believe him. The hospital corridor seemed endless to Lily as she followed Detective Thompson. The fluorescent lights, antiseptic smell, and constant beeping of machines created an overwhelming sensory experience. After years of living in the quiet solitude of the desert, she walked close to the wall, her shoulders hunched, eyes constantly scanning for exits, habits deeply ingrained from a life spent on the margins. Sarah led her to a small private waiting room rather than the crowded public area. "More peaceful in here," she explained, gesturing to a comfortable chair. "Are you hungry?" Lily shrugged non-committally, though she hadn't eaten properly in days. Accepting help still felt dangerous, like a trap that could spring closed at any moment. "I'll take that as a yes," Sarah said with a knowing smile. She made a quick call, ordering food to be delivered to the room. While they waited, Sarah didn't pressure Lily with questions as the girl had feared. Instead, she simply sat quietly, occasionally checking her phone for updates on Ethan's condition. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. If anything, Lily appreciated that the detective didn't feel the need to fill it with meaningless chatter. When the food arrived, a burger, fries, and a chocolate milkshake, Lily's resolve to remain weakened. She ate slowly at first, then with increasing hunger, though she carefully wrapped half the burger in a napkin and slipped it into her pocket when she thought Sarah wasn't looking. "For later?" Sarah asked, catching the movement. Lily froze, expecting reprimand, but Sarah's expression held no judgment. "Smart to think ahead," the detective continued casually. "I would have done the same in your situation." This simple acknowledgement that Sarah understood something of Lily's reality created a tiny crack in the girl's defensive wall. "When can I see Ethan?" Lily asked, speaking directly to Sarah for the first time. "The doctors are still with him. His condition was serious, severe dehydration, exposure, some infected wounds, but they're optimistic." Sarah leaned forward slightly. "What you did saved his life, Lily. Not many adults would have had the courage and resourcefulness you showed." Lily looked away, uncomfortable with the praise. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," Sarah said firmly. "Not everyone would have. Helped, many would have walked away, especially considering the risks you took. Don't diminish what you did." Before Lily could respond, a doctor entered the room. "Detective Thompson, Mr. Blackwood is stabilized. We're moving him to a private room now. He's asking for the girl." Relief washed over Lily's face, though she quickly tried to hide it. "Is he going to be okay?" she asked, her voice small. The doctor nodded. "With time and proper care, yes. He was in a critical state when he arrived. Another day without medical attention would have been extremely serious. You got him here just in time." As they followed the doctor through the hospital corridors, Lily's anxiety returned. What if Ethan had changed his mind about helping her? What if, now that he was safe, he no longer cared what happened to her? These fears dissolved the moment they entered Ethan's room. Despite the IV lines, monitoring equipment, and hospital gown that made him look smaller somehow, his face lit up when he saw her. "Lily," he said, his voice stronger than it had been on the hillside. "Thank God you're okay." The genuine relief in his voice caught her off guard. He was worried about her. "I'm fine," she said with a shrug. You're the one in the hospital bed. Ethan smiled weakly. Thanks to you, that's all it is. Just a hospital bed? The doctors said I was in pretty bad shape. Mr. Blackwood needs rest, the doctor interjected, but he was quite insistent on seeing you first. Ethan reached out his hand, and after a moment's hesitation, Lily approached the bed and took it. His hand felt cool and dry around her small calloused one. Lily, I meant what I said before. You won't be alone anymore. Detective Thompson and I have been talking while they were treating me, and we've worked out a temporary arrangement. Lily tensed, pulling her hand back slightly. What kind of arrangement? Sarah stepped forward. You'll stay with me for now while Ethan recovers. I have a spare bedroom, and my apartment is just a few blocks from here, so you can visit Ethan every day if you want. And then what? Lily asked, the wariness returning to her voice. Ethan and Sarah exchanged a glance before Ethan spoke. One step at a time, okay? The important thing is that you're safe, with people who care what happens to you. Lily wanted to argue, to demand concrete answers about her future, but Ethan's exhaustion was evident. The doctor was already motioning that they should leave and let him rest. You'll come back tomorrow? Ethan asked as they prepared to leave. Lily nodded, surprised by how much she wanted to return. Promise? I promise, she replied, the words feeling strange in her mouth. How long had it been since she had made a promise to anyone? Sarah's apartment was modest but comfortable, a two-bedroom space in a secure building not far from the police station. Lily approached it with the caution of a wild animal entering unfamiliar territory, noting exits and potential hiding places out of habit. Bathroom's through there, Sarah explained, showing her around. I put some clothes on the bed that might fit you. They're my niece's, she's a little older than you. Feel free to shower and change. The bathroom was another shock to Lily's system. Clean, white, with fluffy towels, and an array of products she had almost forgotten existed. She stood under the hot water for what felt like hours, watching as the dust and grime of her desert life swirled down the drain. The clean clothes felt strange against her skin, soft cotton instead of the rough, weathered fabric she was used to. When she finally emerged, hair still damp, Sarah was in the kitchen preparing tea. Feel better? The detective asked. Lily nodded, hovering uncertainly in the doorway. Come sit, Sarah invited. I think it's time we talked about what happens next. Those words would normally have sent Lily running, but something about Sarah's straightforward manner made her stay. She perched on the edge of a kitchen chair, ready to flee if necessary. Ethan told me some of what happened, Sarah began, placing a mug of tea in front of Lily. But I need to hear your side too. Not about your personal situation, that can wait, but about finding Ethan, what you saw. Any details that might help us find the people who did this to him. For the next hour, Lily recounted everything she could remember, finding Ethan tied to the post, helping him to her bus, the vehicle she had heard returning to the area. Sarah listened without interruption, occasionally making notes but never pressuring Lily when she hesitated or seemed unsure. You've been incredibly helpful, Sarah said when Lily finished. Now, about your situation. I'm not going into foster care, Lily interrupted, her body tensing again. I understand your concerns, Sarah replied calmly. The system has failed many children, but there are legal realities we can't ignore. You're a minor without a legal guardian. I've been taking care of myself for years. And you've done an amazing job, Sarah acknowledged, but it's not sustainable. Lily, you deserve education, healthcare, stability, all the things every child should have. Lily stared into her tea, fighting the sudden burn of tears. What does it matter what I deserve? Life doesn't work that way. Sarah's expression softened. No, it often doesn't. But sometimes, rarely, life gives us a chance to change course, to find something better. She hesitated. Ethan asked me about the legal process for becoming your temporary guardian. Lily's head snapped up. What? It's complicated, especially. Given the circumstances, there would be background checks, home studies, court appearances. But he's serious about it, Lily. He wants to help you. Why? The question burst from Lily with unexpected force. He doesn't even know me. Why would he want to take responsibility for some random kid? Because you saved his life, Sarah replied simply, and because he recognizes something special in you, the same thing I see: intelligence, resilience, courage. You're an extraordinary person, Lily, despite or perhaps because of everything you've been through. The words hung in the air between them, too big for Lily to process fully. No one had ever spoken to her like this before, like she mattered, like she had value beyond her immediate usefulness. Get some rest, Sarah suggested, sensing Lily's emotional overwhelm. Everything seems more manageable after sleep. That night, lying in a real bed for the first time in years, Lily stared at the ceiling, unable to quiet her mind. The events of the past 2 days played on loop in her thoughts: finding Ethan, the helicopter rescue, the hospital, and now this strange new development. Could she really trust these people? Could she allow herself to hope for something better than mere survival? Morning came with sunlight streaming through unfamiliar curtains. For a moment, Lily panicked, not recognizing her surroundings. Then the events of the previous day came rushing back. She found Sarah in the kitchen, already dressed in her detective's suit, making breakfast. "Hope you like pancakes," Sarah said, sliding a plate across the counter. Lily eyed the golden stack, topped with maple syrup. "I don't remember the last time I had pancakes." Something flickered across Sarah's face, sadness perhaps, or anger at the circumstances that had deprived this child of such simple pleasures. But she quickly masked it with a smile. "Well, then you're in for a treat. Eat up, we're heading to the hospital in 30 minutes. Ethan's eager to see you." Ethan looked markedly better when they arrived. Some color had returned to his face, and he was sitting up in bed, talking on his cell phone. His expression brightened when he saw Lily. "I need to go," he said to whoever was on the line. "We'll discuss this later." He set the phone aside, giving Lily his full attention. "You look different today," he observed with a smile. "Good, different." Lily shrugged, suddenly self-conscious in the borrowed clothes with clean hair and face. "It's just clothes." "Did Sarah tell you what we discussed?" Ethan asked, glancing at the detective. "About you wanting to be my guardian?" "Yeah." Lily's tone was deliberately neutral. "Why would you want to do that?" Ethan considered her question seriously. "When I was tied to that post in the desert, I thought I was going to die there. No one knew where I was. No one was coming for me. Then you appeared. This incredible kid who risked everything to help a stranger. You saved my life, Lily, not just by cutting those ropes, but by sharing your food, your shelter, your water. You put yourself in danger for me." He paused, his expression earnest. "I've spent my whole life focused on business, on success, on building my company. I have more money than I could ever need, but what good is any of it if I'm not using it to make a real difference? Meeting you changed something in me, Lily. I can't explain it better than that." Lily studied him skeptically. "What if you change your mind? What if you decide it's too much trouble?" "That won't happen," Ethan said firmly. "But I understand why you'd worry about that. Too many people have let you down before." The truth of his words stung. "Everyone leaves eventually," Lily said quietly. "I won't," Ethan promised. "And that's not just words. I'll prove it with actions every day for as long as it takes for you to believe me." Something in his voice, a certainty, a determination, made Lily want to believe him, despite all her hard-earned cynicism. "The doctors say I can leave tomorrow," Ethan continued. "I've arranged for us to stay at a hotel while my home is prepared. It's a lot to take in, I know, but we'll figure it out together. What do you say?" Lily looked from Ethan to Sarah, searching their faces for any sign of deception or uncertainty. Finding none, she took a deep breath and nodded slowly. "Okay," she said simply. "I'll give it a chance." What she didn't say, couldn't say, was how terrifying that decision was, how completely it contradicted every survival instinct she had developed. To trust was to be vulnerable, and vulnerability had only ever led to pain in her experience. Yet something about Ethan Blackwood made her willing to take that risk. Perhaps it was the memory of him, weak and desperate in the desert, trusting her when he had no other choice. Or perhaps it was the way he looked at her now, not with pity or obligation, but with genuine respect and something that, if she dared to name it, might almost be affection. Whatever it was, Lily found herself stepping cautiously toward a future she had never imagined possible, one where she might not have to face the world entirely alone. The Grand Phoenix Hotel stood like a gleaming monument to luxury in the heart of downtown, a world entirely foreign to Lily. As the private car Ethan had arranged pulled up to the entrance, she sank lower in her seat, suddenly acutely aware of her borrowed clothes and second-hand sneakers. "We won't stay here long," Ethan assured her, noticing her discomfort. "Just until my house is ready. The security staff has been briefed. No one will ask questions or bother us." Lily nodded silently, but her anxiety was palpable as they entered the opulent lobby. The marble floors, crystal chandeliers and uniformed staff all screamed of a world that had never included her. A world that typically viewed children like her as nuisances to be shooed away. The suite Ethan had reserved was larger than any living space Lily had ever occupied. 2 bedrooms, a living area with plush furniture, and floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of Phoenix. She moved through it cautiously, as if afraid to touch anything. "Your room is through there," Ethan said, gesturing to a door. "Why don't you check it out while I make some calls?" Lily's bedroom was elegant but not ostentatious. A queen-sized bed with crisp white linens, a desk by the window, and an ensuite bathroom stocked with toiletries. On the bed lay several shopping bags. "Sarah picked up some essentials for you," Ethan explained from the doorway. "Clothes, shoes, things like that. We can go shopping for whatever else you need tomorrow." The casual way he mentioned shopping, as if acquiring new possessions was a simple everyday occurrence, highlighted the vast gulf between their experiences. For Lily, new had rarely existed. Everything in her life had been pre-owned, discarded, repurposed. She approached the bags warily and peeked inside. Brand new jeans, t-shirts, sweaters, pajamas, all still with tags attached. The price of a single item would have fed her for weeks in her previous life. "It's too much," she said, quietly. Ethan shook his head. "It's the bare minimum, Lily. Everyone needs clothes, toiletries, a few personal items. This isn't charity. It's just a basic standard of living that every child deserves." Lily ran her fingers over a soft blue sweater, conflicted between desire for these comfortable new things and the ingrained suspicion that accepting them would create an obligation she couldn't repay. "Thank you," she finally managed, the words feeling inadequate and awkward. Ethan smiled. "Get settled in. Order whatever you want from room service for dinner. The menu's on the desk. I need to handle some business matters, then we can talk more." Left. Alone, Lily explored her temporary space. The bathroom fascinated her most. Gleaming tiles, fluffy towels, a shower with multiple jets and settings. She spent nearly an hour just enjoying the luxury of unlimited hot water and sweet-smelling soap. When she finally emerged in new pajamas, hair still damp, she found Ethan in the living area, his expression troubled as he spoke on the phone. "IQ. Don't care about the optics, Marcus. The merger can wait. No, I'm not discussing this now. I'll be in touch." He ended the call with visible frustration. "Problems?" Lily asked, hovering in the doorway. Ethan's expression softened when he saw her. "Nothing important. Work stuff." He gestured to the couch opposite him. "Come sit. Did you order dinner?" Lily shook her head. "I wasn't hungry." It was a lie. She was always hungry. But the idea of casually ordering expensive hotel food still felt wrong somehow. Ethan gave her a knowing look. "I'm ordering for both of us then." He picked up the hotel phone and requested 2 hamburgers with all the trimmings, French fries, chocolate milkshakes, and an assortment of desserts. "Comfort food," he explained after hanging up. "Best kind. When you're adjusting to new circumstances." The food arrived promptly, wheeled in on a cloth-covered cart by a server who didn't bat an eye at Lily's presence. As they ate, Ethan deliberately kept the conversation light, asking about her favorite colors, foods and books, rather than probing into her past. It was only after they'd finished eating that he broached more serious topics. "Tomorrow I have a meeting with my lawyer about the guardianship process. Sarah will come by to stay with you." "I don't need a babysitter," Lily said immediately. "Not a babysitter," Ethan corrected. "A friend. And also protection." His expression grew serious. "The people who abducted me are still being investigated. Until they're all in custody, we need to be careful." This was a sobering reminder of the circumstances that had brought them together. "Do you remember anything more about them?" Lily asked. Ethan hesitated. "Some fragments, it's complicated. My company, Blackwood Innovations, has been developing a new sustainable energy technology. There are competitors who would benefit if the project failed." "So it was about business?" Lily's brow furrowed. "That's why they hurt you?" "For some people, business is everything," Ethan said grimly. "Money, power. They'll do almost anything to get more of both." "That's stupid," Lily declared with the straightforward moral clarity of a child. "No amount of money is worth hurting someone." Ethan smiled ruefully. "I wish more adults shared your perspective, Lily." The next morning brought a flurry of activity. Sarah arrived early, bringing more clothes and some books she thought Lily might enjoy. Ethan left for his meetings, promising to return by afternoon. "How are you settling in?" Sarah asked once they were alone. Lily shrugged. "It's weird. Everything is so clean and new." Sarah laughed. "I imagine it's quite a change. Want to tell me more about yourself now? Not for any official record, just so I can understand better." Perhaps it was the detective's straightforward manner, or perhaps the accumulated effect of clean clothes, good food, and a safe place to sleep, but Lily found herself more willing to talk than before. She told Sarah about her mother's gradual decline, her grandmother's illness, the eviction that had left them homeless, how her mother had grown increasingly unstable, disappearing for days at a time, until the final disappearance when she simply never returned. "Did you report her missing?" Sarah asked gently. Lily shook her head. She'd disappeared before, and I was afraid of what would happen to me if I talked to police or social services. Mom always said they'd take me away. How long ago was this? Almost 2 years now. Sarah couldn't hide her shock. You've been on your own since you were 9. Lily nodded, uncomfortable with the pity she saw in Sarah's eyes. I did okay. I'm good at finding things, fixing things. People don't notice kids much if you stay quiet and don't cause trouble. The reality of what this child had endured, surviving alone, invisibly, on the fringes of society, struck Sarah anew. As a detective, she'd seen many cases of neglect and abandonment, but rarely had she encountered such resilience in the face of complete isolation. You're remarkable, Lily, she said simply, but you shouldn't have had to be. The rest of the morning passed pleasantly enough. Sarah had brought playing cards and they engaged in games of gin, rummy and war, with Lily proving to be a surprisingly strategic player. Around noon, however, their companionable atmosphere was interrupted by a call on Sarah's cell phone. "Thompson," she answered crisply. Then her expression changed. "When? Are you certain?" "Keep me updated." She hung up, her face grave. "What's wrong?" Lily asked, immediately sensing the shift. Sarah hesitated, clearly debating how much to share. "There's been a leak to the press about Ethan's abduction and rescue, specifically about you." "About me? How? Nobody knows about me." "Someone at the hospital, maybe. Or the hotel." Sarah sighed. "It doesn't matter now. The story's out there. Homeless? Child heroine saves tech CEO. Your photo hasn't been published, thank goodness, but reporters are already digging." Lily's stomach clenched with anxiety. "What does that mean? What will happen?" "It means things might get complicated. The media loves a dramatic human interest story, and this has all the elements: danger, rescue, the contrast between your circumstances and Ethan's." As if on cue, Sarah's phone buzzed with a text. "It's Ethan. He's seen the news, and he's on his way back." When Ethan arrived 30 minutes later, his face was a mask of controlled anger. "I'm so sorry, Lily." This is exactly what I wanted to avoid. What happens now? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady despite her rising panic. Ethan and Sarah exchanged a look. We have options, Ethan said. We could move to my lake house upstate. It's private, secluded. Or we stick to our original plan, but increase security. Running looks suspicious, Sarah pointed out, and it won't stop the story, just delay the inevitable. What inevitable? Lily demanded. What aren't you telling me? Ethan sat beside her, his expression serious. The media attention complicates the guardianship process, Lily. It puts us under a microscope. And there's something else. He hesitated, and Sarah nodded encouragingly. My company has been accused of some financial irregularities, Ethan continued. Nothing illegal, but questionable practices that have drawn scrutiny. There's already speculation that my interest in becoming your guardian is calculated, a PR move to distract from the company's problems. Lily absorbed this, her face unnaturally still. Is it? No, Ethan replied immediately, his voice firm. Absolutely not, but perception matters in situations like this. The timing makes it easy for people to question my motives. The room fell silent as Lily processed this new information. After everything she'd endured, after finally allowing herself to trust these adults, was it all about to fall apart? I say we face it head on, she said finally, her voice small but determined. Hiding makes it look like we have something to hide. Ethan and Sarah looked at her with surprise, then at each other. Are you sure, Lily? Sarah asked. It won't be. Easy, there will be questions, interviews, public scrutiny. I'm used to hard things, Lily replied simply. Ethan nodded slowly. Okay, then we control the narrative. We do one interview with a journalist I trust and set the record straight. After that, no more media, no more public statements. Just us focusing on building our family. The word hung in the air between them, weighted, significant, full of both promise and uncertainty. That evening, Ethan arranged a press conference for the following day. Together, they prepared what they would say, how much they would reveal, where they would draw boundaries. Lily listened carefully, asking occasional questions but mostly observing the way Ethan methodically addressed each potential problem. Will I have to talk? She asked as they finalized their approach. Only if you want to, Ethan assured her. You can just stand with me, or not appear at all. That's completely your choice. Lily considered this. I'll stand with you, she decided, but I don't want to answer questions. That's perfect, Ethan said, relief evident in his voice. Just your presence will mean a lot. That night, Lily lay awake in her luxurious hotel bed, her mind racing. In less than a week, her entire existence had transformed. From the isolation of her abandoned bus to the spotlight of public attention, it was dizzying, terrifying, yet somehow also exhilarating. For the first time in years, her future contained possibilities beyond mere survival. The press conference was held in a hotel meeting room, carefully controlled and limited to select media representatives. Ethan stood at the podium, composed and authoritative in a dark suit, with Lily beside him in a simple blue dress that Sarah had helped her choose. The detective herself stood nearby, a protective presence. Thank you all for coming, Ethan began. I'd like to address the recent reports regarding my abduction and subsequent rescue. While I'm not at liberty to discuss all details due to the ongoing investigation, I can confirm that I was taken against my will and left in the desert outside Phoenix approximately 1 week ago. He paused, placing a gentle hand on Lily's shoulder. What the reports got right is that this remarkable young person found me and at considerable personal risk saved my life. What they've speculated about, my motivations, the timing, the circumstances, has largely been inaccurate and, frankly, cynical. Ethan's gaze swept across the assembled journalists. Yes, I am pursuing legal guardianship of Lily, not for publicity, not to distract from any corporate matters, but because in the midst of the worst experience of my life, I found something unexpected, a connection that transcends ordinary boundaries. A child with extraordinary courage showed me more humanity than I've often seen in boardrooms full of successful adults. The room had fallen completely silent, every eye fixed on Ethan and the small figure beside him. As for Blackwood Innovations, I stand by our business practices and our vision. The merger will proceed as planned. But my priorities have changed. Moving forward, a significant portion of our profits will be directed to initiatives addressing child homelessness and improving the foster care system. He straightened, his expression resolute. We will not be taking questions today nor giving additional interviews. We ask for privacy as we navigate this transition. Thank you. As they left the podium, flashbulbs popped and reporters called out questions despite Ethan's statement. Lily kept her eyes forward, her hand firmly in Ethan's as they exited through a side door where a car was waiting. You did great, Ethan told her once they were safely inside the vehicle. How are you feeling? Lily considered the question. Weird. All those people looking at me, taking pictures. It's the opposite of being invisible. Being seen can be uncomfortable when you're used to hiding, Sarah observed from the front seat. But sometimes it's the first step toward healing. As they drove away from the hotel, a notification sounded on Ethan's phone. He glanced at it, his expression darkening momentarily before he forced a smile. Everything okay? Sarah asked, catching his reaction in the rearview mirror. Fine, Ethan replied too quickly. Just work. But Lily had seen his face. Whatever message he'd received, it wasn't good news. Despite his reassurances, despite the confident words at the press conference, something was wrong. Another shadow looming over their tentative new beginning. The fallout from the press conference was immediate and intense. By evening, the story dominated local news and had begun to spread nationally. Opinion pieces debated Ethan's motives. Business analysts speculated about the impact on Blackwood innovations, and social media buzzed with both support and cynicism. Sequestered. In their hotel suite, Ethan fielded an endless stream of calls while Lily watched television, with the sound muted, oddly fascinated by seeing her own image flickering across the screen. This will die down soon, Sarah assured her, noticing her absorption in the coverage. The news cycle moves quickly. Something else will capture their attention in a day or two. But Lily sensed the detective wasn't entirely convinced of her own words. The story had too many compelling elements. The wealthy CEO, the homeless child. Heroine, the dramatic desert rescue. It wasn't going away anytime soon. That night, Lily woke to the sound of hushed voices from the suite's living room. Creeping silently to her door, she listened. Threatening to pull out entirely, Ethan was saying, his voice strained. Marcus says the board is spooked by the media attention. They're calling an emergency meeting tomorrow. Can they force you out? Sarah's voice was concerned. Not technically, but they can make things difficult enough that I might have no choice but to step down temporarily. The merger is hanging by a thread. And your guardianship application? A heavy sigh. My lawyer says it complicates things. The judge will scrutinize my motives more carefully now, given the publicity. And there's the question of whether my work situation provides enough stability. That's ridiculous, Sarah said sharply. Your financial situation is more than secure, regardless of the company's status. It's not about money. It's about proving I can provide a stable, consistent home environment. If I'm fighting corporate battles or worse, unemployment, that becomes questionable. A long silence followed, broken finally by Ethan's voice, quieter now. I promised her she wouldn't be alone anymore, Sarah. I can't break that promise. You won't, Sarah replied firmly. We'll figure this out. Lily retreated to her bed, her mind racing. All her life, adults had made promises they couldn't keep. Why had she expected Ethan to be different? Yet something inside her rebelled against the familiar cynicism. She had seen something in Ethan, a genuine goodness that she wanted desperately to believe in. The next morning at breakfast, Lily studied Ethan's face, noting the shadows under his eyes and the tension in his jaw, despite his attempt at cheerfulness. You should go to your meeting, she said abruptly. Ethan looked startled. What meeting? With your board. I heard you and Sarah talking last night. His expression softened with understanding. Lily, It's okay, she interrupted. Your company is important. You should fight for it. Ethan put down his coffee cup, giving her his full attention. Yes, my company is important. I've spent 15 years building it, but some things matter more. He reached across the table, his hand stopping just short of hers, respecting her space. I meant what I said at the press conference. My priorities have changed. Lily wanted to believe him, but experience had taught her that good intentions often crumbled under pressure. What if they make you choose? Then it's no choice at all, Ethan replied without hesitation. Before Lily could respond, Ethan's phone rang. He checked the screen and grimaced. I need to take this. It's Marcus, my CFO. He stepped into the other room, closing the door behind him. Sarah, who had been quietly observing their exchange, moved to sit beside Lily. He means it, you know. I've known Ethan for 15 years, and I've never seen him as certain about anything as he is about you. But his company is just a company, Sarah finished. It can be rebuilt, restructured, even lost and started again. Some things can't be replaced so easily. When Ethan emerged from the bedroom 20 minutes later, his expression was unreadable. The board meeting is in an hour. I need to go. He hesitated, looking at Lily. Would you like to come with me? To your meeting? Lily asked, confused. Not to the actual meeting, Ethan clarified, but to the building. I'd like to show you something afterward, if you're willing. Curiosity overcame Lily's reluctance. Okay. The Blackwood Innovations headquarters occupied the top 10 floors of a gleaming downtown skyscraper. As their car pulled into the underground parking garage, Lily noticed the increased security, uniformed guards checking vehicles, others positioned near elevators. Precautions, Ethan explained, seeing her questioning look, until everyone involved in my abduction is apprehended. They entered through a private elevator that required Ethan's fingerprint. Sarah accompanied them, her professional demeanor firmly in place despite her casual clothes. The board meeting is on the top floor, Ethan explained as they ascended. I'd like you both to wait in my office on the floor below. It shouldn't take more than an hour. Ethan's office was spacious and modern, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of Phoenix. Unlike the stark, cold executive suites Lily had seen in movies, this space felt personal. Bookshelves lined one wall, photographs adorned another, and a small collection of unusual rocks and minerals was displayed on a side table. I collect geological specimens, Ethan explained when he noticed Lily examining them, a hobby since childhood. This small glimpse into Ethan's personal interests, this evidence that he was a real person with passions and history beyond his corporate identity, touched Lily unexpectedly. I like finding things too, she offered hesitantly. Interesting things people throw away. Ethan smiled warmly. Maybe we can start a collection together. He glanced at his watch. I should go. Make yourselves comfortable. There are drinks in the small refrigerator, and Janet, my assistant, will bring lunch if the meeting runs long. After he left, Lily wandered the office, examining the photographs. Many showed Ethan at various corporate events or in outdoor settings, hiking, rock climbing, standing beside scientific equipment. In none of them did he appear with family. He was an only child, Sarah said, noticing Lily's attention to the photos. His parents died while he was in college, threw himself into building his company after that. He doesn't have anyone? Lily asked. He has colleagues, employees, business associates, a few friends like me. Sarah's expression softened. But, no, not family. Not until now, perhaps. The hour stretched into 2, then 3. Janet brought lunch, sandwiches and fruit, and offered reassuring smiles, but no information about the meeting. Sarah kept Lily distracted with card games and stories about her work, carefully edited for age appropriateness, but the tension in the room grew as the afternoon wore on. Finally, the office door opened. Ethan entered, his tie loosened and his expression weary but resolved. Well, Sarah prompted when he didn't immediately speak. It's done, he said simply. I've stepped down as CEO, effective immediately. I'll remain on the board and retain my ownership stake, but day-to-day operations will be handled by Marcus until further notice. Lily felt a cold weight settle in her stomach. Because of me, she said, not a question but a statement. No, Ethan replied firmly, crouching to her eye level, Because of choices I made. The board was already concerned about some of my recent business decisions. This situation just accelerated the inevitable confrontation. But if you hadn't helped me, then I wouldn't have found something far more valuable than a corporate title. He smiled gently. Now, are you ready for what I wanted to show you? Still processing this major development, Lily nodded hesitantly. They took the elevator down several floors to a level that appeared to be under construction. Plastic sheeting covered doorways, and the sound of power tools echoed from somewhere down the hall. This floor used to be administrative offices, Ethan explained as he led them through the space. I've been repurposing it for the past 6 months. He stopped before a set of double doors marked with a temporary sign. Blackwood Foundation for Youth Innovation. The foundation has been my side project for a while, he continued, opening the doors. It wasn't scheduled to launch for another 3 months, but recent events have convinced me to accelerate the timeline. The space beyond was bright and open, still partially under construction, but clearly designed with purpose. One area held computer workstations, another featured comfortable seating around low tables, and a third space contained various tools and equipment. The foundation will provide STEM education, mentorship, and resources to underprivileged youth, with a special focus on children in the foster system and those experiencing homelessness, Ethan explained. We'll offer scholarships, apprenticeships, and eventually transitional housing support. He turned to Lily, his expression earnest. This is what matters to me now, using what I've built to create real change. And it started with you, Lily. You showed me that there are brilliant, resilient young people out there who just need someone to see them, to believe in them. Lily stood speechless, overwhelmed by the implications. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about all the invisible children like her, struggling alone on society's margins. Do you like it? Ethan asked, a hint of uncertainty in his voice. It's amazing, Lily replied honestly, but won't stepping down as CEO make it harder to do this? Actually, it might make it easier. Less corporate pressure, more time to focus on what really matters. He smiled, including being a proper guardian, if you'll still have me. 2 weeks later, Lily stood before Judge Eleanor Martinez in a private family court hearing. The proceedings had been expedited due to special circumstances, though the judge had insisted on thorough background checks and home evaluations despite the high-profile nature of the case. Miss Lily, Judge Martinez addressed her directly, her tone gentle but serious. I've reviewed all the documentation in your case, including the social worker's reports and Detective Thompson's statement, but I'd like to hear from you directly. Do you want Mr. Blackwood to become your legal guardian? Lily, dressed in a simple blue dress she had chosen herself, stood straight and met the judge's eyes. Yes, Your Honor. Can you tell me why? Lily had anticipated this question and had rehearsed various answers with both Sarah and her court-appointed advocate. But standing here now, only the unvarnished truth felt right. Because he didn't have to help me, but he did, she said simply. He could have just said thank you and gone back to his life after I helped him. Most people would have. But he didn't. He promised I wouldn't be alone anymore, and he's kept that promise even when it was hard. She paused, gathering her thoughts. I don't care about his money or his big house or any of that stuff. I care that when he says something, he means it, and that when things get difficult, he doesn't walk away. Judge Martinez nodded thoughtfully. That's very well put, Lily. One more question. I understand you've been enrolled in school for the fall term. How do you feel about that? Nervous, Lily admitted. I haven't been in school for a long time, but Ethan, Mr. Blackwood, has arranged for tutors to help me catch up over the summer, and he says it's okay if it takes time to adjust. The judge smiled. That sounds very sensible. She turned to Ethan. Mr. Blackwood, despite the unusual circumstances, the court is satisfied that you meet all requirements for guardianship. Your background check is clean, your home evaluation excellent, and your financial stability unquestionable, regardless of your recent career changes. Most importantly, it's clear that you and Lily have formed a genuine bond. She signed the document before her with a flourish. I hereby grant legal guardianship of the minor child Lily to Ethan Blackwood, effective immediately. A 6-month review will be conducted as standard procedure, but based on what I've seen today, I anticipate a smooth process. As they left the courthouse, Lily felt strangely light, as if a weight she hadn't fully recognized had been lifted from her shoulders. For the first time in years, her future had a shape beyond mere survival. It held promise, possibility, even hope. "What would you like to do to celebrate?" Ethan asked as they reached the car where Sarah waited. Lily hesitated, then said, "I'd like to go back to my bus. One last time." Ethan and Sarah exchanged surprised glances, but neither questioned her request. The drive to the desert outskirts was quiet, each lost in their own thoughts. When they finally reached the area where Lily had lived for so many months, she guided them to the abandoned school bus, now seeming smaller and more desolate than in her memory. "Are you sure you want to go in?" Sarah asked gently. "We could wait here." "No, I want you both to come," Lily replied. The interior of the bus was exactly as she had left it, though a fine layer of dust now covered everything. Lily moved through the space, touching objects that had once been her only possessions: the makeshift bed, the containers for water, the small treasures arranged on the dashboard. From beneath a loose floor panel, she retrieved a small metal box. "I need to get something," she explained. Outside in the desert heat, Lily found a spot near the bus where a small indentation in the ground offered softer soil. Kneeling, she began to dig with her hands. Without a word, Ethan knelt beside her and helped, his larger hands making the work easier. When the hole was about a foot deep, Lily placed the metal box inside. "What's in there?" Sarah asked softly. "Things from before," Lily replied. "My old life." She had carefully selected what to preserve: the photograph of her mother from happier times, a small toy her grandmother had given her, a bracelet made of colorful plastic beads, and what to leave behind. As they covered the box with earth, Lily felt a sense of ceremony, of transition. From her pocket, she produced a small packet of seeds. "Desert wildflowers," she explained. "I found them a long time ago, but never had a reason to plant them." She scattered the seeds over the freshly turned soil, then stood, brushing the dust from her hands. "In the spring, there will be flowers here." Ethan placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "We can come back and see them if you'd like." Lily nodded, taking one last look at the bus that had been her shelter and prison both. "I'm ready to go home now." Home. The word still felt strange on her tongue, foreign, yet increasingly familiar. Their new house sat on the outskirts of Phoenix, close enough to the city for convenience, but with enough land around it to offer privacy and space. It wasn't ostentatious, despite Ethan's wealth, a comfortable 4-bedroom ranch-style home with a large yard backing onto natural desert landscape. As they pulled into the driveway, an unexpected sound greeted them: barking. From around the side of the house bounded a medium-sized dog with floppy ears and a wagging tail. "What?" Lily began, then turned to Ethan in confusion. He smiled sheepishly. "I may have made one last stop yesterday while you were with Sarah. The shelter called him Hunter. He's about 2 years old, found wandering in the desert not far from where your bus was, actually. The shelter staff thinks he was abandoned." The dog approached cautiously, tail still wagging hopefully. "He needed a home," Ethan said simply. "I thought perhaps we both did too." Lily crouched, extending her hand to the dog, who sniffed it, then licked her fingers gently. Something about his cautious optimism, his willingness to trust despite past betrayal, struck a chord deep within her. "Hi, Hunter," she said softly. "Welcome home." That evening, as the desert sunset painted the sky in spectacular hues of orange and purple, Lily sat on the back patio with Hunter curled at her feet. Ethan brought out mugs of hot chocolate, handing one to her before taking a seat in the adjacent chair. "Happy?" he asked. Lily considered the question seriously. "I think so," she replied. "It's strange, being happy. I'm not really used to it yet." Ethan nodded in understanding. "It takes practice sometimes, especially after difficulty, but we have time." He gazed out at the desert landscape. "Sarah called earlier. They've arrested the last person involved in my abduction. It's truly over now. Relief washed over Lily. Though she had tried not to show it, the knowledge that those responsible were still partly at large had lingered as a shadow in her mind. What will happen to them? She asked. Justice, Ethan replied simply. They'll face the consequences of their actions. But that's not for us to worry about anymore. We have more important things to focus on. Like school, Lily said with a mix of determination and apprehension. Like school, Ethan agreed. And your art lessons. I saw how you light up when you draw. And maybe swimming lessons for the summer. Whatever interests you want to explore. And the foundation, Lily added. I want to help with that too. Ethan smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. Your perspective would be invaluable. They sat in comfortable silence as darkness gradually claimed the sky, stars emerging in the vast desert expanse above them. Hunter sighed contentedly at Lily's feet, already settled into his new role as family member. Ethan, Lily said finally, using his first name with growing comfort. Yes? Thank you. For everything. No, Lily, he replied, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you for saving my life in more ways than you know. As night fell completely over their new home, Lily reflected on the extraordinary journey that had brought her here, from an abandoned bus to this place of safety and belonging. The road ahead would not always be smooth. She knew that adjustment, healing, and growth all took time. There would be difficult days, setbacks, moments of doubt. But, for the first time in her young life, Lily wouldn't face those challenges alone. She had found something she had stopped believing existed. Not just shelter, but a home. Not just a guardian, but a family. Created not from shared blood, but from shared experience, from choices made and promises kept, from the remarkable human capacity to recognize oneself in another, despite all apparent differences. As Hunter's gentle snoring joined the chorus of desert night sounds, Lily felt the final piece of her new reality click into place. The invisible girl had been seen. The child who had learned to expect nothing now had everything that truly mattered. And the man who had once measured success in profits and acquisitions had discovered the immeasurable wealth of a child's trust. Family, Lily was learning, wasn't what you were born into. It was what you built together, day by day, choice by choice. A home created not from walls and possessions, but from the simple, profound decision to belong to each other, no matter what. Dear listeners, we hope that Ethan and Lily's journey has touched your heart as deeply as it has touched ours. The desert may seem barren at first glance, but as Lily discovered, even the harshest landscapes can nurture remarkable growth when given the chance. For more emotional stories that explore the unexpected ways families form and the resilience of the human spirit, please subscribe to our channel by clicking the button to your right. If this story moved you, don't forget to leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments below. What moment touched you the most? What would you like to hear about next? Our storytelling continues tomorrow with another powerful narrative that reminds us of our shared humanity. Until then, remember that sometimes our greatest treasures are found in the most unlikely places.